Good morning. So this is the third video in the Copperplate Majuscules playlist. So this is the letter C. I'm going to go straight in. I am Holly. I've been doing Copperplate for 6 years at this point. Today I'm using an oblique holder with a Leonard Principles EF nib in. Just done a little bit of watercolour ink. Watercolour ink is fast drying, great for practice. Also, if you need to annotate your work, it is fast drying, so you're not going to get nice smudges, which is fab. So a C is a very, very simple majuscule in terms of the amount of strokes you need to do. You mostly can do it in one stroke, which means that your ovals need to be on point. It is basically just an unfinished oval, and it's just quite large. It's almost like you're writing at a very, very large X height. My X height today is 5mm, which means that my majuscules are going to be 15mm tall. Okay, so I am going to go almost from the top. I'm just going to do an incomplete oval that is as tall as I can make it. So there is my incomplete oval. You can see that I could join that up. However, for a C, all I need to do is take that backwards and finish it off. Okay, so a C really is not complicated. You can flourish parts of it as long as you have the bulk of the space here free. So you can I would either flourish the top or the bottom. As soon as you start to flourish both, it starts to get a little bit convoluted and hard to read. You can do it in one stroke should you prefer. So if I move that up there really quickly, we can, is it in focus? It is now, there we go. I can do it in one stroke. It means that I would start, there we go. It means that I would start on the left and end up over here somewhere. So I can do it in one go. And that's totally up to you, whichever way you want to do it. You just need to make sure that two things in a C is three things. I'm sure as we go along I'll find more. Okay, if we go back to our first one, I'll amend these two just whilst that one is drying. So in the C, you obviously should have a contained oval shape for the main focus of your C, and that oval should be along the slant line somewhere. As much as you can eyeball it. So I like to start from the top. I find it quite hard to start from 1 or 2 o'clock purely because going backwards I find quite difficult to follow the slant line and get my downstroke as it were perfectly along the slant line. So I like to start from about 12 o'clock if I can. Then again, I would only flourish 1 or 2, either top or bottom, but not both. As soon as we start to flourish both, it can start to look like a O or a G. So if I do, I think I'm still in frame there. So if I do a flourished top and bottom C just in monoline, so I can show you really quickly. Yeah, so it's still readable per se, but I do think you start to lose some of the legibility of the latter. But we can talk about that in a second. I flourished the top on both of mine. That's just a personal preference. If you are a bottom flourisher, then you know, we'll go through that in a second, but we'll start with the top. The top flourish, there are two things about it. Number one is that the line right here should be, at least in some part, eyeballing. I mean, it's never going to be perfect, but as long as you've got some parallel to the exit stroke of this oval. that is going to be quite pleasing to the eye. I have tried to bisect the space, but again, if your flourish is too large on a capital C, it can start to look like just a large lowercase e. So it's a bit of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. So as long as you give yourself enough space inside of your flourish, that it's clear that it is a flourish and it's not a part of the integral part of the letter, then it should still be legible. Okay, the left flourish that I have done, the oval is bisected by the first ascender line. So it means as low down as I've gone below that line, I've tried to do the same above that line again. And also my flourish is pointing, so if the oval could point in a direction, it's pointing directly left. If your oval is pointing anywhere else, if it's pointing up here or even in the middle somewhere, it's going to look slightly off. I tend to find that the flourishes in a majuscule tend to look the best if they are either fully horizontal or if they are pointing per se along the slant line. So you can see in my example right here, I've got a flourish that points directly left and I've got a flourish that is along the slant line. Those are the ones that I tend to stick to. I've also got a perpendicular bisection right here, so it should look like a perfect plus as far as I can eyeball it. The closer to 90 degrees that you can intersect these lines, the more pleasing that is going to look. It's also bisecting this space, so it doesn't fully cross over that space, but it means, this is going to look very complicated, but it means for the enclosed space within the top loop of the C, the flourish comes, and as far as I can get it, eyeballing it, it is bisecting that space. Okay, so we should have in a C, if I go, where can I put this? Oh, I can put this down here. That would work. That. Am I still in frame? No, I'm not. Oh, I can go right here. So I should have an incomplete oval. Top or bottom flourish. I can put that there. There we go. And wherever possible, bisect in space. So that means half in it. If you are not bisecting it, so if you are doing something which is almost dividing it into thirds, so if I do, I'm in frame there, so I can do that here. So there's my C. If you are doing something like, okay, if you are doing something that almost divides it into a third and 2/3, would mean that I would expect, I don't know, what can we do here? Something else to cross it over that line. So we are still bisecting it into approximate thirds. That's another way of bisecting the space. So I'm just bisecting it almost twice. But it does look the cleanest when you just do it once. So C is much more simple. And I hope that was really clear. I'll see you in the next video.